So this Monday classroom session, we're talking about the Shortcuts Cloud features. My name is Noah. I'm one of the educators here with Shortcuts. So this presentation, just like other presentations, it's about 30 minutes. My microphone, of course, is turned on. So if you're not hearing anything, hopefully your speakers are on. And somebody decided to give me a call during my presentation. Well, leave me a message, please. All right, sorry for the interruption. So we will take questions during this presentation, and of course, we'll reserve some time at the very end. So if you can just wait, save your questions for the end, and we can review these things together. So what are we going to focus on today? So the Cloud Appointment Book, a little bit about Cloud Upsell, of course, the benefits of accessing the cloud, accessing your reports, your dashboard, and targets, which is an upcoming feature for the cloud. So what exactly is the cloud? If you have Shortcuts, whether you're a salon, a spa, or a barber shop, you're mostly familiar with the Shortcuts point of sale system, putting customers in the walk-in manager, in the appointment book, checking them out at the point of sale. You may even be familiar with the Shortcuts console, the online console. So that's where you would do some basics, like how do you set up online booking? Or how do you set up your online check-ins? And how do you give staff permission so that they can look at their appointments remotely? So that's traditionally the online console. Now the cloud sort of takes that to an entirely new level. So we have a new feature called the Cloud Appointment Book, Cloud Services. You can actually access this through the Shortcuts online console. So what exactly can you do in the Cloud Appointment Book? So it is a functioning mobile version of the appointment book that you can use anytime, anywhere. So if you have a really busy team and you have a really busy front desk, and you don't necessarily get a chance to run to the computer, to have the employees run to the computer to make the next appointment or to write something down on a card, if you have a tablet, if you have a phone, you can access the cloud on there and you can actually make appointments from there. So while the customer's still in the chair. So as long as you have an internet connection, as long as you have the newer version of Shortcuts Fusion, you should be able to access and work with the Cloud Appointment Book. So we have a short video here that sort of gives you an introduction to the cloud, but we're actually going to do a live demo as well. How do you access it? What does it look like? And of course, how do you give people permission to get into the cloud? So just like I said previously, if you have a tablet, if you have your phone, so this is a portable cloud-based version of accessing the Shortcuts Appointment Book. So on a tablet, for example, you can make appointments, you can access customer history, you can access customer notes. When you make an appointment in the cloud, it synchronizes to your Shortcuts point of sale. When you update your client information in the cloud, it synchronizes with your Shortcuts point of sale. Update your history notes, your visit notes, so that you don't necessarily have your front desk do that. Again, it all synchronizes. So the purpose is, of course, you want to free up your front desk. So again, it supports multiple devices because it's cloud-based, it's web-based, so you can access that from any device. Everything synchronizes, and of course, your staff has access to the information. This is protected by security, so they're limited for what they can see. If you're concerned about having certain privileges or permissions, you do have the ability to do that. So it's constantly synchronizing, it's always updating. So what you see in the cloud and what you see in the point of sale are one and the same. So a lot of the features that customers have been accessing or asking for are now accessible in the cloud, the Shortcuts cloud. So of course, the easier it is to access this information, the more time your staff can spend with the actual clients. And that is an introduction to the cloud. So again, why do you need it? If you're not using it, it's the ultimate flexible mode of accessing shortcuts information. So it allows you to achieve your mobility, rebook appointments, check your histories, and spend more time with the customers, less time necessarily with the technology. So the basics. So I'm going to show you again a short video, but then we're actually going to dig into the cloud. Oops, I skipped that one. There we go. So if you have online services through the console, you can access the cloud. The cloud appointment book looks a little bit different than shortcuts, the traditional point of sale. And by the look, I just mean it's usually a lighter color. So every site, when you go to the console, you'll log in with your username and password like you normally do, where you look at your spotlight surveys, where you give your staff permission, but now you have the ability to access the cloud. So in the cloud, there is an appointment book. And the way the appointment book is organized is exactly the way it's organized in the shortcuts point of sale. So once we go to that window, you'll actually have the ability to see the schedule for that day for all of your staff members. You have the ability to even select different sites to search for customers. All of the same functions that you would have in the regular shortcuts point of sale. So I can actually pause where we're at and we'll talk about Upsell in just a sec. We're going to jump into the actual cloud. So in the cloud, I'm going to one of my test ones. So every site has its own address. And again, it's accessible from the shortcuts console. But if you look carefully, you'll notice that it's pointofsale.shortcutsoftware.com/site. And every site that has the online services has their own ID. So in case you decide to bookmark this on a tablet or on your phone, this is the particular page you would go to. So once you're in the actual cloud, again, it looks and it functions very similarly to the traditional shortcuts point of sale. At the bottom of the screen, you can advance or go backwards 1 day or 1 week at a time. So all of those same features from shortcuts are available right here. On the top left corner, where it has today's calendar day, if you click on it, you can jump to any other particular day or month, or even skip ahead a few years if you want. So just like, again, the shortcuts point of sale. And when you click on an opening, let's say Billy's my stylist and I want to give her a 10 o'clock opening. When I click on that opening, Shortcuts allows me to search for customers or at the bottom of the screen to add new customers. Not only that, I can actually go to the task button and block out a task. So if the staff has to do inventory, if they're going to go on lunch and they just want to block it out so nobody makes an appointment, you can absolutely mark a task there. So I'm going to search for a customer, let's say my client David, one of my regulars. So I'll choose David and I can update his information if I want. I noticed that, do I have his mobile number? When was his last visit? It's been a year. Any additional appointment notes? It's all accessible here. So I can go to the next button at the bottom and I can choose a service. So maybe he's coming in for a barbering service. Oh, unless my server is down. He's getting a barber cut with Billy. And I can even put a tag with him. So maybe he requested Billy. And once I press done, Shortcuts puts David's appointment right on the appointment book, just like as if he were to go to the front desk and the receptionist were to do that. So this appointment actually shows up in the Shortcuts point of sale, just like it would had he made an appointment online or had he gone to the receptionist. And then once the appointment is there, I have all of the same functionality that I would in Shortcuts. I can update his information. I can change the status of his visit. So all of that is accessible right in the appointment book. All right, so that appointment is synchronizing, and I think my virtual server that I'm working with might be down right now. So let me jump to another one. Bear with me just a moment. That's the downside when the help desk is sometimes working in the same environment that I'm working on. So I'll just jump to another one. And hopefully they're not using this one. So I believe number 2 might be available. We'll take a look. Or it might not. Always when the help desk is working on it. There we go. Okay, let's try to search for a customer. Is David on here? He might not be. Okay, Bruce is in. And we're doing a haircut, a men's cut. And no particular tag. And I think that they are working on my virtual servers. Oh, well, the good thing is that's why we have videos. Because if the help desk is in the middle of processing something, then we always have that available on video for me to jump to. But again, normally you don't have help desk members in the same environment as you're trying to make a presentation. So instead, anything that you would do in the cloud would have the same functionality that you would when you're in the actual shortcuts point of sale. So I'll leave that there. Okay, so let's go back. So provided that you're able to make an appointment, which you should be. So not only can you make appointments, look up clients, update their contact details, their history, it's all of that. We're also incorporating cloud upsell so that in the actual cloud, you can add products that the client would like to purchase. So you can search for these products, you can add a quantity of these products so that when the receptionist looks at their ticket, they can actually already start to gather this information so that the customer can check out. So to see it in action. So when the customer is in the chair, if somebody were to take the tablet, recommend a certain product, and the customer says, yes, I'd like a conditioner or I'd like a shampoo or something. So in the tablet, you can find that customer, recommend an item, and search and select that item right on the cloud. So again, anything that you select shows up in the point of sale as if the receptionist had added it. So you'll go to your cloud, we're going to select point of sale, and you can choose the particular customer and then add a specific item. So in this case, and here, we're going to add a product for checkout. And on the checkout screen, there's a little plus button. And shortcuts will say, are you adding on a service or are you adding on a product? So both options are now available in the chair. So this customer had an add-on service. Did the customer also have a product? If so, again, you'll press add a new product. You can type in the name, so there is a search bar right at the top, or you can manually select it. And on the right side, you can change the quantity, You can delete the item if the customer changes their mind. So again, anything that you normally would do in the point of sale synchronizes right from the cloud. You can even change which staff member gets credit for that particular upsell. So if the receptionist recommended it, absolutely. If a different employee recommended it, you can always change that. And again, everything shows up in the point of sale when the customer is ready to pay. So the cloud appointment book, cloud upsell, those are features that are synchronizing for just about every customer that has online services. So these are all new features that you might not be taking advantage of that you absolutely should be. Now, I think somebody raised their hand. Somebody has a question. So hold on just a moment. Let's see, who has a question? Brittany has a question. Will the upsell option be available for regular bookings? So, Brittany, do you mean if a customer makes an online appointment, will they be able to choose products from your inventory? Or do you mean once a customer already has an appointment, if an employee were to go to the tablet or their phone, can they choose that customer's name and put products into their cart? If it's the second, then if for any guest, if we would like to monitor any upsells or upgrades. So yeah, for any guest, not just customers that are making appointments online. If a customer already has an appointment, that customer's name is going to be in the cloud. So any staff member, if they have permission, can bring up that information on the tablet and add a product, add a service, and then that'll be ready to go when they check out. Does that answer the question? And will this feature only be available for cloud users? I'm not sure I follow. So do you mean will this be available only if somebody's using a tablet at the point of sale? Or do you mean would a staff member, if they use their phone and they access the cloud on their phone, would they be able to do the same thing for their customers? The answer to that would be yes. If the staff member had permission to access the cloud, they can actually bring it up on their phone and do upsells of services or products. So remember, this is, let's see. If we choose not to use the cloud appointment book, will this function still be available to us? Well, everything synchronizes through the cloud. So let's say you don't want your staff necessarily using the appointment book, but you still want them to be able to access the upsells. So that is all still cloud-based, but it is synchronizing through your shortcuts point of sale. So you don't have to have your staff, let's say, necessarily use the cloud, but if you don't want them to, maybe only the receptionist or the manager should have access to that. But that is the only way to access those product or those service upsells remotely. So if you were to just use the shortcuts console, the regular online console, and an employee was to log into anywhere, they would still have the ability to make appointments or to move appointments or to add on a service, but not necessarily to access products or upsells. So does that explain how that works? Okay, I think Brittany's got it. So the cloud really just complements what you have in your regular shortcuts point of sale. So both product and service upsells are available in the cloud. And again, a customer doesn't have to make an online appointment. If their appointment was already in your regular shortcuts point of sale, it would show up in the cloud. And then the staff member could add services or products so that when the client checks out, everything will be correct. Okay, so of course, what makes this feature so great? So usually your customers are having conversations with the staff while they're in the chair, and if they mention very specific things, rather if the employee is too busy at the chair, they may not get a chance to run over to the receptionist to let them know, unless the customer is processing a color or a chemical. But the nice thing about this is that employee can just pick up a tablet, show them a couple of items they'd recommend, and add them right to the ticket. Or if the customer's in the chair and they get an additional service, then again, right from the chair, they can just press a button on their tablet and their total's been updated at the point of sale. So, of course, this prevents you from missing any of those potential upsells. So the darling of cloud access, in addition to accessing client information, in addition to providing upsells, is of course cloud reporting. So one of the biggest requests we've gotten is, I wish we can access more of our customer information or our business information when we're working remotely. I don't want to remote into the business. I don't want to drive in on my after hours to look at these reports. So Shortcuts has actually introduced a few different reports you can look at. One of the big ones is called the KPIs, your key performance indicators. So the nice thing about this, and we'll jump back to the cloud. So under menu, at the very top left corner, you're going to see there's a reports option. And I should probably choose somebody from my test environment that has more reports available. And I think we have one for Angel. There we go. Okay, so we could go to reports, and we don't have the 120 plus reports we have available in the Shortcuts point of sale. Instead, we focus on the 4 or 5 most important ones. But in these reports, the dashboard, the best part about the dashboard is that it is a snapshot, a summary of what is happening in the business. So it will actually run for whatever period you tell it to run. So if you just want to look at your averages for a day, or your averages for the week or the month, at the very top center of the screen, there's a little calendar button that allows you to set the date range. So it says, okay, for this period, what were your sales? What were your averages? What were your totals? Well, the downside for working on a test environment is if I forget to put any transactions for that period, I'm not going to have anything to show you. But instead, I'll choose last month when I actually did run some transactions. So you can see these numbers are actually changing in real time. So this is very flexible. This is just a general snapshot of how the business did. And if I decide I need to dial down and get even more information, that is where you can go to your specific reports and look at the trading summary, for example. And again, am I looking at the trading summary for a day, a week, a month? You can always set your date range. If you're a multiple site location or you're the owner or manager of multiple locations, you can actually filter and tell Shortcuts, okay, I only want to look at the trading summary for these 2 sites for last month. You absolutely have that flexibility. And for your staff members, same rules apply. So if you just want to look at 1 or 2 employees for a particular location for the past month or the past 2 weeks, you can absolutely filter out that productivity or their performance for that period of time. So some of the things that are synchronizing are those upsells. Is the staff using the tablet? Are they using their phone? What is their utilization of their available time versus their book times? So how many customers are they seeing? What are their averages? So now you don't have to go to the Shortcuts point of sale to run these reports. These are all available on the cloud. And that information is all flexible. You could print it up, you can export it, and Shortcuts will export it into an Excel format or a format that you can open in Excel. So that's always available. All right. So we'll go back to the presentation. So cloud reporting. All your key performance indicators are now available online. And I just showed you most of those. So of course, what's great about the cloud? So in addition to appointments, customer details, giving your staff permission to even access the cloud to perform upsells. So now you can run your most important reports when you're working remotely or when you're at home. So multi-site, especially if you have multiple locations you need to be on top of, all of that information is available right from the cloud. So if you don't already have the cloud or you have an older version of Shortcuts, you need to be upgraded to at least version 728, I believe. And then that's going to allow you to synchronize your services, your customers to the cloud. So if you don't already use it, give us a call. We'll schedule an update for you. So in the future, in the near future, we're testing this right now. It's live for a couple of our beta customers, is the ability to do targets. So with targets, you'll be able to tell Shortcuts for my business, my location, if I have multiple locations, what are my goals for this business in terms of rebooking, in terms of upsells, things like that. You can even set goals against specific employees. So I'm not going to show you the targets just yet because it's still in beta. We're hoping to finalize it very soon. But the next presentation that I do will probably feature a live target test or a live target portion. Okay, so this has been an introduction. It's a short introduction, but an introduction nonetheless to the cloud services, the cloud appointment book. Are there any questions that our attendees have? So I'll give you a moment. And on the right side, you can go ahead and use the chat window or the questions. And I should be able to see them as they pop up. And I don't think we have any cloud-based questions. How do you access the cloud? So good question, Jessica. So I'm going to jump back one window. So a question for you. So normally, if you had online services, things like online booking or self-check-in or anywhere, you should be familiar with this page. This is called the console, the Shortcuts Online console. So if you have this bookmark somewhere or if you are familiar with this window, we've added a brand new tile on this screen. On the top right corner, there's a little white button that says Shortcuts Cloud. When you press that button, it actually takes you to this specific web page for your site, the point of sale site. So if you don't have the console, or if you don't have console access, or if you have an older version of Shortcuts that never use these features, we probably need to get you upgraded because the cloud really is only accessible with the newest build of Shortcuts. So one of those things is going to be the solution. Either you don't currently have access to the console or you have an older build and you need to be upgraded. Okay. So I'll go back a window. So then once you're here, if you have access to the console, if you have access to the cloud and you decide, maybe I'm going to allow some of my staff members to have permission to access this. When you go to the menu button on the top left corner, and you select employees and schedules, you'll actually see the names of my staff members on the left. So I can choose Billy, for example. And at the bottom center, I can press roles and login for Billy. And on the right side, I can say login access, yes or no. There's just a little toggle there. What is this employee's username and email? I would advise making them the same thing. This way the staff member never forgets their email is their login information. And then down at the bottom, what permissions should Billy have when Billy logs in? Should she have employee access or site manager access? So what exactly do these permissions mean? If you go to menu and you go to general settings, there is a role button. There are two default roles and shortcuts, that of employee or that of site manager. Now, site manager, these settings do trump the employee access. So a manager could technically have both permissions, employee and site manager, but their site manager permissions will overwrite whatever their employee permissions are. And you can see right from this window, we can toggle certain permissions, yes or no. So maybe your staff should have the ability to access the appointment book, but should they have the ability to delete appointments of other users? So that of other staff members, yes or no? Can they create appointments in the past? So if somebody came in on their day off and they charged a customer for a service and they want to make sure it shows correctly on the appointment book, can they do that? Yes or no? So all of these options can be enabled or disabled for a particular level. So maybe you want to have an employee that has some permissions taken away from them. So you can absolutely filter out those permissions. And if you have somebody that falls in between, not quite an employee, not quite a site manager, perhaps a receptionist, then at the bottom of the screen, you can actually create a custom role. So you can say new, I'm going to create a brand new role and I'm going to go one permission at a time and say yes or no. What do they have access to see? Reports? Yes or no. Can they use the point of sale? Yes or no. Can they add employees, assign roles, permissions, things like that? Yes or no. So it's a pretty robust tool and it's very, very easy to work with. Once you have your roles created, you can then tell shortcuts, my employee should have a very specific role. Okay, are there any other questions with accessing the cloud or permissions or working within the cloud? I'll give everybody a moment. Okay, I think that answers the questions on accessing or getting some permissions with the cloud. So of course, if you think of something after the fact or something that's not exactly related to today's topic, you can always reach out to us. Our email is always here, our phone number, of course. You can always leave a message if it's after hours. And you can always find our previous webinars, previous presentations, and even our Learning Center on our Shortcuts webpage. So let's say you already have the cloud and you're sort of hesitant on how to use certain features. Chances are we have a video for you. So if you access us online on our webpage, shortcuts.net, and if you go to our Learning Center for Shortcuts Fusion, you will have a video for how to use all of the new features in your cloud. So if anything comes up, go ahead and reach out to us. We'll absolutely get back to you. All right. So if there are no other questions, we're going to wrap up this presentation. And for anybody that couldn't attend, we are recording this and we will send you a link a little bit later today. So thank you everybody for attending. So I hope to see you for our next presentation. So my name is Noah, and every Monday we have a new Monday classroom session to get you up to speed on the shortcuts basics. So I look forward to seeing you for our next session. Have a great day.